Alright, okay, so you may start now. Good luck.
Okay. Um, Good afternoon, everyone. So our group will be presenting about cubic function. So the general equation for cubic function is ax cubed plus bx squared plus cx plus d. D is for y-intercept. So there are three cases in cubic function. Case 1, 1 root. Case 2, 2 roots. And case 3, 3 roots.
Okay, just like how Pika said just now, we have this type of cubic function. So the first picture is a is greater than a, which is positive, and a is smaller than a, which is negative. So this is the shape how the cubic function look like. So we are going to present the case 1, which is have 1 roots when b is 0 and c is 0. So we have fx ax cubed plus d, which is d is y-intercept. So as you can see that this first picture, the ax is cube, the y is 0, so it's going to, the line is going to cross this part. And the second picture is ax cubed plus d, which is the d is positive, so it's going to cross at the positive section. And the third picture is ax cubed.
Excuse me, sorry.
Yep.
Are you presenting or
Oh, I'm not presenting right now.
because it is still at the presentation, how want to call that, layout there?
Oh, or maybe because of my line, sorry. Okay, which part you see right now?
Now is the fourth. Okay, because just now is the page is stuck at the second one.
Oh, really? Okay, sorry. Thank you for telling me.
Welcome.
Okay, so did I need to present from this part again?
Maybe you no need to present like make it full screen, just explaining using
Ah,
this.
oh, okay. Thank you. Okay, back. So this is the case 1. It have 1 roots when b is equal to 0, c equal to 0. So we have fx equal to ax cubed plus d. So this is the first graph where the d is 0, and this is the d is positive, and this one is d is negative. So I'm going to explain this example. The question is asked to catch the following graphs, and hence stage is dominant and red. So this is the question. As we see, the d is positive, so the first step we need to do is look his graph, x-axis and y-axis. And the second graph, as we see, this dominant is red, the d is positive, so it's going to look like this. And the third step is you need to find the value of x. So we get the value is negative 1.26. So we need to label it. And then the step 5, we need to um, find the dominant, which is the negative infinity to positive infinity. And the range is also same negative infinity to the positive infinity. That's all from me.
Okay, so now I'm going to proceed how to sketch the graph if the value of a is less than 0, which is negative. So you guys can see the difference between this shape of graph dengan yang tadi Fatin present. Lepas tu ada yang saya lupa sini, untuk graph second dengan third tu, dia pas D dengan negative D. Macam tadi juga. Okay, Fatin next. Okay, so ini contoh soalan yang dari YouTube video tu. Okay, so sketch the following graph and hence state its domain and range. Okay, so kita tengok dia punya function, negative x cube minus 2. So first we need to determine the value of a. Kita tengok a2 less than 0 or greater than 0 so that kita tahu macam mana bentuk graph yang kita mau sketch. So sini nilai a dia is negative, which is less than 0, so the shape of the graph will be like this. And then we need to find the value of x, which is negative 1.26. And for y-intercept, ada nilai d dekat situ, which is negative 2. So sketch saja. So the domain is negative infinity to infinity, and the range is negative infinity to infinity as well. That's all.
So can you see my screen? Am I presenting?
Yes, I'm presenting.
Okay, so today I'll be explaining about case 2 of cubic function. So in case 2, the cubic function has 2 roots. So 2 roots means it has 2 x-intercepts. Just now, Fatin already explained about the general equation. So for the second case, when the coefficient of x cubed, which is a, is bigger than 0, which is positive, then the shape of the graph will be like this. And on the other side, when the coefficient of x cubed, which is a, is smaller than 0, which is negative, then the shape of the graph will be like this. So for my example, as you all can see, the coefficient of this example's x cubed is negative, so the shape of the graph will be like this. So when we get a question like this, we'll just break down the equation into like this, where there's a linear equation and a quadratic equation. So the x-intercept when we get from the linear equation is where the graph passes through, while the x-intercept that we get from the quadratic equation is where the graph will turn. So to plot the graph, we need to find the x-intercepts, right? So when we find the x-intercepts, y is equal. So we'll just find the linear equation first. So when y equals 0, x also equals 0. So, and then for quadratic equation, to find the x-intercept, y also has to be 0. So x squared minus 8x plus 16 equals 0. Then we factorize it into x bracket x minus 4 bracket square. And then x equals 4 is the x-intercept for quadratic equation. And then we'll just plot the x, and then we'll draw the graph like this. And then, as we all know, the graph we draw is just part of the graph. The two ends of the graph here will continue to extend. So the domain and the range of the of this graph is all real numbers, so the domain and range will be written as this, negative infinity to infinity, and the range is also the same. Okay, that's all for me. Thank you.
So I will explain the example 2. The first step, we gonna find the shape. We're gonna find the shape of the graph. So from the equation, we will expand the equation to find the a value. So the value f of a is positive. So a is greater than 0. So our shape is gonna be like this. The second step, we're gonna find the x-intercept. From the equation here, we will find the x is equal to 0, and the second x-intercept is equal to negative 0. So this is our x-intercept. The last step is we will draw the graph. The 0 is here, the negative 2 is here. So the first one is passes through 0, turn, and passes through 0. So this is the shape of our graph. And then the third step, if we will find the domain and the range. The domain is negative infinity to the positive infinity. And the range is also the same, negative infinity to the positive infinity. So yeah, we are done. That's all from me.
Okay, saya present untuk cubic function case 3 3 root. Aduh. General equation dia ax cube tambah bx square tambah cx tambah d. Shape untuk case 3 ni ada dua shape, graph dia ada dua shape. Yang first, A lebih daripada kosong, which is A dia positif. Jadi graph dia From sad to smile. Satu lagi, A kurang daripada kosong, which is A dia negatif. Jadi graf dia from smile to sad. Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to show on how to solve the cubic function and draw the graph. Okay. So so for this part, we will see the first two terms first. So the greatest common factor for the first two terms is x squared. Is this? This is the greatest common factor for for the first two terms. And then we will just put it down here. And then x cubed divided by x squared, we will get x. Negative 2x squared divided by x squared, we will get negative 2. And for the last two terms, we will find the greatest common factor, which is negative 1. So negative 1, put it here. And then negative x divided by negative 1 will get x, and 2 divided by negative 1 will get negative 2. So from here, we can notice that we have the sum x minus 2, right? Then we will just put it down here. And then the leftover terms, x squared and minus 1, we will just put it here. Notice that x squared negative 1 is a quadratic equation, so that we will factorize it and we will get x plus 1 and x negative 1. And this, we will just put it on here. So to find x-intercept, our fx is equal to 0. Then x plus 1 equal to 0, and we will get x equal to negative 1. X minus 1 equal to 0, and we will get 1. X minus 2 equal to 0, and x will equal to 2. And we can find our y-intercept when our x here is equal to 0. When this is equal to 0, 0, 0, and our fx is equal to 2. And this is our y-intercept. So we will just plot down all the x-intercept here and y-intercept here, and we'll just draw the graph and following all the plot the point. And this is our domains and range. Okay. And then so our coefficient of x cubed is negative sign, so that our graph will from smile to sad. Okay. For the first two terms, for the first two terms, the greatest common factor is negative x squared. So when negative x cubed divided by negative x squared, we will get x. 2x squared divided by negative x squared, we will get negative 2. For the last two terms, the greatest common factor is positive 1. So x divided by 1 will get x, and negative 2 divided by 1 will get negative 2. As x minus 2 is same, we will just put it down here, and the leftover terms, negative x squared plus 1, we will just put it here, and let the negative sign out of the bracket. Okay, and x squared plus 1 is a quadratic equation, so we can factorize it, and we will get x plus 1 and x negative 1, x minus 1. And this x minus 2, we will just put it down. Okay, to find x-intercept, our fx is equal to 0. Then x plus 1 equal to 0, and x will be equal to negative 1. X minus 1 equal to 0, and x will be equal to 1. X minus 2 equal to 0, and x will be 2. Okay, and our y-intercept is when our x is equal to 0. So 0, 0, 0, and our fx is equal to negative 2, which is, wait. Okay. Okay. From smile to sad. I'm so sorry. So our domain is negative infinity to infinity, and our range is from negative infinity to infinity. That's all from me. I will pass to Remy.
Okay, jadi ni soalan yang terakhir. Equation dia fx sama dengan negatif x cube tambah 4x. Kalau tengok dekat equation ni, kita tak ada yang bx square dengan d. D kan y-intercept. Sebab apa tak ada? Sebab dia kosong. Sebab tu tak ada. Lepas tu, soalan dia, sketch the following graph and hence state its domain and range. Jadi ni, fx sama dengan negatif x cube tambah 4x. Kita factorizekan jadi negatif x square tolak 4. 4 kan boleh jadi 2 square. Lepas tu kita factorizekan lagi jadi negatif x tambah 2, x tolak 2. Lepas tu kita dapat graf macam ni. Okay. Kalau tak faham ada ni, kan saya cakap tadi kita tak ada D, jadi di y-intercept tu kosong. Kalau mau coba cari juga boleh. Untuk cari y-intercept, x sama dengan kosong. Gantikan x yang kosong tu dalam equation yang kita dah factorize ni. Jadi y sama dengan negatif kosong, kosong tambah 2, kosong tolak 2 sama dengan kosong. Untuk x-intercept, y mesti sama dengan kosong. Lepas tu kita buat satu-satu lah. Negatif x sama dengan kosong, x sama dengan kosong, x tambah 2 sama dengan kosong, x sama dengan negatif 2, x tolak 2 sama dengan kosong, x sama dengan 2. Jadi kita dapat 3 poin lah macam tu, kosong, negatif 2, 2. Untuk kes 3 ni, dia lalu dekat paksi x 3 kali. Sebab tu ada 3 nombor tu tadi. Jadi kita nak lakar graf, buat pasi x, lepas tu buat pasi y, susun yang kosong negatif 2, 2 tu susun dekat pasi x. Lepas tu kita tengok dekat fx, kan negatif x cube, jadi shape, kita punya shape graph tu from smile to set. Lepas tu lalukanlah dekat point yang tadi yang kita dah letak tu tadi. Soalan nak state its domain and range. Buatlah domain dia negatif infinity sampai infinity. Range dia pula negatif infinity sampai infinity. Okay, tu je.
That's all from our group. Thank you.
Okay, so ada soalan tak daripada yang lain? Boleh faham tak presentation kawan-kawan awak tadi?
Boleh.
Boleh?
Faham.
Okay, faham kan? Okay, so nanti saya tengok macam grup awak ada banyak slideshow kan? So saya rasa slideshow tu sangat membantu untuk kawan-kawan awak faham nanti. So nanti lepas kelas boleh tak awak combinekan semua slideshow yang ada tu jadikan satu PowerPoint sahaja? So that kita boleh share dengan semua orang. Okay ke? Okay, good. Alright, so itu adalah soalan yang melibatkan, itu adalah function, cubic function. So cubic function ni dia ada dua je basically bentuk dia. Sekejap saya share. Okay, so presentation tadi sangat bagus, very clear and sangat senang difahami. Okay, so sekejap kita tengok kita punya sini. So kalau awak tengok dekat this one, okay, so dia ada 3 case kan untuk cubic. So the first case is bila awak ada only one root sahaja. So saya recap je balik. Okay, so you only have one root. Okay, and then secondly, awak ada 2 roots, and then case yang ketiga is bila awak ada 3 roots. Okay, so basically graph kita, dia punya basic shape ada 2 je. Okay, untuk cubic ada 2 je shape, which is these two. Ni sahaja. Okay, so yang lain-lain ni, yang daripada sini dengan daripada sini, dia punya basic shape tu dia datangnya daripada yang satu root tu sahaja. Contohnya macam ni, kalau awak tengok dekat this one, untuk yang A positif, di greater than 0, dia akan start daripada sebelah kanan dan dia pergi ke bawah. Okay, so sama juga macam yang bila awak ada 2 roots, dia akan start pergi daripada kanan juga. Okay, so untuk awak ingat, awak senang buat macam ni je. So ingat dia daripada kanan and then dia mesti akan naik ke atas. So daripada kanan, macam tu. Okay, so bila yang tu adalah bila dia 2 roots. Okay, and then kalau 3 roots pun sama juga. So dia akan daripada kanan juga dan dia ke bawah sana macam tu. Okay, tapi yang ini tadi kawan awak cakap dia ada lagi satu cara untuk kita ingat dia, which is yang second ni, this one, kita boleh ingat dia as dia from sad to smile kan. This one from sad to smile. So bila dia positif, daripada dia sedih, dia jadi gembira. Okay, and then untuk yang bila A adalah negatif, so dia daripada gembira, dia jadi sedih. Smile to sad. Okay, yang bawah pun sama. So bila A greater than 0, dia jadi daripada sedih ke gembira. Okay, and then from when A is less than 0, from smile, you become sad. Okay, macam tu. Okay, so ini adalah 3 case of cubic. Okay, so nanti saya minta yang kawan awak tu share. Okay, so nanti kita akan share dengan semua kelas. And then awak dah kena start buat soalan tutorial lah kot. Okay, lepas kelas kita habis. Okay, so jom kita sambung presentation. Ada tak apa-apa soalan untuk cubic? Kalau tak ada soalan, kita sambung untuk cert pula. Okay, tak ada soalan? Okay, so kalau tak ada, saya stop sharing. And kita boleh jemput kumpulan yang kedua lah, which is H39 yang akan present on search function. Okay, go.
Okay, so hi everyone. Hari ni kami akan bentang pasal set function lah. So first thing yang kamu mesti tahu pasal set function ni is dia punya general equation, which is fx equal to square root x plus minus constant c. Lepas tu kan kita mesti tahulah set ni ada 4 basic shapes. Sebelum tu kamu mesti tahulah dekat mana kuadran 1, kuadran 2, 3 sama 4 dekat graf supaya kamu macam lebih senang faham begitu. So the first, untuk shape pertama, equation dia ialah fx equal to square root x. So dia positif x kan, jadi maksudnya shape dia akan start dari origin point ke kuadran yang pertama. Untuk shape yang kedua, equation dia ialah fx equal to square root negative x. Disebabkan dia negative x, shape dia akan start dari origin point ke kuadran yang kedua. So saya akan pass kepada presenter yang seterusnya untuk explain shape yang lain lah, yang dua lagi. Thank you.
Okay, hello. Jadi kita tahu set function ni ada 4 basic shape. Jadi Mimi sudah kasih terang untuk shape pertama dengan kedua. Jadi saya akan kasih terang shape yang ketiga dan keempat. Jadi kita nampak di sini yang warna bulat nih, dia punya equation fx equal to negative square root x kan. Jadi dia punya bentuk graph, dia start dari origin point pergi kuadrat keempat. Oke, itu untuk bentuk yang ketiga. Jadi untuk bentuk yang pertama, dia punya equation adalah fx equal to negative square root negative x. Jadi dia punya bentuk start dari origin point pergi kuadrat ketiga. Jadi we can combine all the four basic shape on the same axis. Dengan kamu nampak ini bentuk yang macam gula-gula. Jadi itu mudah ingat juga kalau ini. Jadi untuk kasih selesai seed function ini dia ada 3 step yang utama untuk memudahkan kita. Jadi yang pertama kita perlu kenal pasti dia punya shape, sama ada dia itu yang first, untuk second, third, ataupun yang keempat. Jadi lepas itu step kedua kita cari dia punya starting point, which is berapa dia punya x. Lepas itu yang ketiga kita tengok kalau intercept tuh wujud atau tidak. Contoh yang di sebelah ini, oke, untuk yang nomor 1 kita tengok macam mana, apa maksud itu step. Jadi kita tengok yang nomor 1 dibulatkan, dia tulis aja bentuk yang macam mana, dia simply dia tulis step pertama cari shape, terus step kedua dia cari dia punya starting point di mana x tuh x tambah 2, dia tidak kasih masuk itu dia punya square root, dia cari dan dia dapat x lebih besar atau equal to negative 2. Jadi kita tengok di sini dia tiada itu intercept, dia tidak exist, jadi dia punya starting point itu negative 2, 0. Jadi lepas itu kita boleh sketch sudah to graph, baru kita cari step ketiga. Kita kasih masuk nilai x dalam equation fx equal to square root x plus 2. Jadi lepas sudah kasih selesai kita assume yang x tuh sama dengan 0, jadi dia dapat square root 2. That's all. I'll pass to next presenter.
Okay, so like what Rosalinda said, to determine the shape of cert functions, there are 3 steps that you have to take. You have to do when determining the function shape. So there's like the shape, the starting point, and the intercept. So referring to example 1, fx is equals to square root of x plus 2. So to find the shape, you have to refer to the coefficient of x. So as you can see, the coefficient of x is a positive, and the sign in front of the square is also a positive. So meaning the shape is going to start from the origin point to from the origin point. Okay, and then so next step is that we have to find the starting point. To find the starting point, you'll have to know that everything inside the square root, which is x plus 2, is more or equal to 0. And then you'll have to rearrange it. So x is more or equals to negative 2. So meaning the starting point is negative 2 and negative 2 and 0. So then you'll have to sketch the graph, and then you'll realize that there is a y-intercept. So to find the y-intercept, you'll have to substitute 0 inside the equation of fx. So then once you substitute, you'll get square root of 2. And that will be your y-intercept. And then you can find the domain. The domain is the intervals of x. So as you can see, the intervals of x only starts at negative 2. So that's why you have to include negative 2, which explains the closed bracket. And then it will extend until positive infinity. Okay, and then for range, you'll have to refer to the intervals of y. Like I said, the intervals of y starts at 0. So from 0, it'll extend to a positive infinity. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to explain for example 2. So here we have fx equals to negative square root x minus 2. So the first thing first, we have to identify the shape of the graph. If we look here, our coefficient of x is positive, but in front of our square root sign, we have negative over there. So the graph gonna be in quadrant number 4. And then the second is we have to find our starting point, which is we should have x and y coordinate. For x coordinate, we can easily obtain from inside the square root sign, which is x minus 2. So whatever inside the square root sign must be greater or equals to 0. So here we have x minus 2 greater or equal to 0. Then we rearrange the equation and we got x is greater or equal to 2. Next, for y-intercept, if we look at our equation here, we don't have any plus or minus constant. So our y is equal to 0. So right now we have our starting point and we can plot the graph with x equals to 2 and y is equal to 0. The graph gonna be like this, same like we have identified just now. Okay, since our graph does not pass through y-intercept, so we don't need to find y-intercept. So directly we can state our domain and range. For domain, what actually inside the square root sign is our domain. So here our domain start from 2 to infinity. For 2, we must put close bracket at it start from 2. And range we definitely can see from the graph, which is from negative infinity up to 0, close bracket. That's all. Thank you.
Next, I'm going to explain for example 3. So here it says sketch the following graph and hence state its domain and range. So this is the equation that given 1 plus set of negative x plus 1. So first we need to determine the shape. First, take a look at the coefficient of x here is negative, but the sign for set is positive. So dia akan berada di kuadran kedua. Okay, next is starting point. Starting point kita ambil dari dalam set ni, then bigger equal to 0. And then kita pindah-pindahkan untuk dapat x. So we get x less and equal to 1. So this is the coordinate for our x. To get y, kita tengok dari equation here. So this is our constant. So it's gonna be our y coordinate. So our starting point is 1 and 1. And then you already get the shape, already get the starting point. Just plot the starting point and then lakar your graph like this. And here you see there's a y-intercept over here. So how to determine the y-intercept? We make x equals to 0. Like last week, Miss said that kalau x-axis, dia punya y equals to 0. So kalau y-axis, kita punya x equals to 0. Then simply ganti x equals to 0 dengan kita punya equation and then you will get 1 plus set 1. So your intercept here is going to be 1 plus set 1. And then we need to determine the domain and range here. So for domain, it's for x-axis. From left to right, we can see here, it starts from the negative infinite until 1. So negative infinite, open bracket, 1 close bracket. And then determine the range from below to above. So you can see here, it starts from here, close bracket 1 until positive infinite. That's all from me.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm going to explain the last example. And the question gives that, the question states that y is equal to negative 2 minus third negative x plus 1. So the first step is to identify the set. Since we know that the coefficient of the third is negative, so it will be going down. And the x in the third is negative, so it will be on the negative region. So it will be the graph will be going down and to the left. The next step is to determine the starting point. To determine starting point, we just simply take the equation inside the set, and we will know that the equation inside the set is greater or equal to 0 because negative set cannot be identified. So I just simply take negative x plus 1 greater than or equal to 0. Then I change the charge so that I could get positive x. Then I simply put the 1 on the other side. So that would let me get the coordinate for x. The coordinate for y, I can simply obtain it from the equation since the constant is the coordinate for y. So when I get the coordinates for the starting point, I just simply sketch the graph. And when I sketch the graph, the third graph have a y-intercept. To get the y-intercept, I just simply substitute 0 in the function. So when I substitute 0, I could get negative 3, and that is my y-intercept. To determine the domain, since we know that the graph could be stretched to negative infinity, then it will start from negative infinity and end at 1. For the range, you could stretch the graph until infinity going down below. So you know that the graph starts at negative infinity and it ends at negative 2. Thank you for your attention. I think that is all from me.
Okay, so is that all from your group?
Yes, Miss, that's all.
Okay, so good job. All right. So a very clear explanation on how to sketch a set function and also how to find the domain and also range. Okay. So I'm just going to recap a bit about it. Okay, kejap. Need to share the screen. Okay, so set function. All right. So there are actually 4 basic shapes of set function. Okay, so dia ada 1, 2, 3, 4 kat sini. So shape nombor 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so macam mana awak nak tentukan dia punya shape ni adalah berdasarkan apa yang ada dekat sini dalam set ni. Tengok X ni punya sign, and then dekat luar set awak tengok apa sign dekat sini. Okay, itu adalah apa yang akan menentukan awak punya X dan juga Y. Okay, so this one is X, this one is Y. Okay, so cuba kita tengok dekat graf yang basic ni sekarang, yang atas ni. Okay, so dekat kuadran yang pertama, kalau kita tengok, kita tahu dekat situ kita punya X adalah positif. So this one over here, X is positive. Okay, and then kita punya Y pun adalah positif dekat sini. Dekat kuadran yang pertama. Okay, so kalau dekat kuadran yang kedua pula, kita punya X is negative and then our Y is positive. Okay, and then dekat kuadran yang ketiga, X is negative, Y is also a negative. Okay, and then finally dekat kuadran yang keempat, so we have X positive and then Y negative. Macam tu. Okay, so kita tengok dekat sini, example yang saya tunjuk ni dekat sini. Okay, so dekat situ kita tengok X adalah negative. And then Y pun negative. So basic shapes yang kita akan lukis untuk this graph adalah 1, 2, 3 ke 4? 1 ke, 2 ke, 3 ke 4?
3.
Yes, 3. Okay. So awak tengok dekat sini, Y kita is negative and then our X is negative. So kuadran yang akan ikut this X and also Y is the third quadrant, which is this one. Okay, so basic shapes awak dia akan jadi macam ni. Okay, and then yang menentukan dia langgar dekat mana, whatever semua tu adalah berdasarkan awak punya starting point. Okay, starting point yang kawan awak cari tadi. Okay, so saya ada satu soalan. Kenapa dekat dalam ni dia mesti greater than or equal to 0? Why? So, siapa nak cuba?
Square root cannot be negative.
Okay, betul? Betul. Okay, so square root, dia tak boleh ada negative number kat dalam dia. So let's say lah awak buat square root negative 1. So awak akan dapat math error. Dia undefined kat situ. Okay, so dalam square root dia mestilah kosong dan ke atas saja. Which means dia sama ada kosong ataupun nombor yang positif. Okay, so that's why kita akan buat yang dalam set tu is greater than or equal to 0. Okay, macam tu sahaja. Okay, so itu je rasanya set function. Ada tak apa-apa soalan untuk this one? Ada? Tak ada?
Tiada.
Tak ada. Okay, good. So, untuk H39 group 1 ni, boleh tak nanti awak combinekan awak punya PDF tu ataupun slide kalau ada, and then nanti share kat saya sebab saya nak share dengan semua orang. Okay, so that kawan-kawan awak boleh refer into that PDF sahaja bila dia nak study pasal set function ni balik. Okay. Alright, so I think we can take a break for a while, dalam 5 minit macam tu. So 3-1 minit kita sambung balik untuk absolute function dan juga reciprocal function. Okay, alright, tu sahaja. Kita rehat dulu. Do you have any song to request? I'm out of idea. Alcohol free? Lagu apa tu? Alcohol free.
Dari Twice tu, Miss.
Cerita? Oh, daripada drama ke? Oh, Twice.
K-pop group Twice.
Rasa